Hello, my fellow readers. This is iDarkSymphony777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. Also, I do have a new community post up relating to a future Q&A video that I plan on doing. So if you want, if you can't, and go to the community page on my channel and leave as many questions as you can. If you want me to answer serious, goofy questions, go ahead. I at least want to get some questions by the end of February. I still got like a while to go. But yeah. So the story I'm doing a review on is The Tale of Rumia, Hero Shadow. It is a Touhou fanfiction project fanfiction by Raikaria. And this story is admittedly weird. Not so much for anything inside the story, but more about the backdrop of the story, like how it was made. And I think I had to kind of go over that before I go over the actual story. So here we are, the first chapter. It's not even so much an actual chapter, but more like a introduction, like kind of telling you a little bit backstory about this story. If we go down here, right here, it's revealed that this story was actually not an original work. Well, kind of is, but it was originally a long-running forum roleplay that was centered on this character right here. We'll talk about her in a bit because it's kind of important. And basically, why the story came to fruition is at the climax of the story, the forum died. So the author, wanting to not see it end, decided, I'm going to take this forum and transform it into a fan fiction. On paper, that sounds like a very, very kind thing to do. And honestly, it is a kind thing to do. It's like, you don't, there are some people who look at like incomplete fan fictions and are like really sad that they don't, that they can't, that's not finished. And more likely, there are probably some authors who are like that. Like, they just get burned out, or excuse me, they get burned out, or they get like a massive writer's block, and they kind of get bitter over the fact that they can't finish the story, and that caused some frustrations, a lot of frustrations. So I understand where the author was coming from. Like, he didn't, like, it was at the end. You don't want, you wanted it at least to be finished. So yeah, I can see why he did it the way he did it, or she did. So, however, it does mention continuity issues. That's kind of like, okay, so in order to describe this problem, and I have to get this one problem out of the way, is this story, despite being changed from a roleplay to a full-length fan fiction, it still has some weird continuity issues. They're not. I don't think they would be as bad as like if I actually read the original forum, because like role playings are very, very hard to judge because you have to judge the fact that they're structured extremely differently. It's pretty much always only going to be dialogue, and instead of a coherent story, it's just a bunch of stuff kind of thrown together at random. It's mostly dialogue. That's kind of a thing with the story. The story has a lot of dialogue, not really a lot of prose. Excuse me. A lot of stuff doesn't really make sense from part to part. Again, that kind of plays a part in how role plays work. They're kind of just scattered along, just random stuff happening rather than anything kind of connecting or being coherent or anything like that. It's a confusing mess. This is not even this story's fault. This is more just a general role playing fault. But role playing is more for fun. Like, you're just goofing off rather than you're like trying to tell a story and things. Like, hey, let's make something up as we go along. You know, that's part of the role. That's part of a role playing charm. Like, you're literally making shit up as you go along. So I can understand. So I'm not going to drag on that aspect too much. But I do think you're trying to, instead of trying to make a story with a full prose and writing style, the author randomly decides to take it in their hands to still make it read, weirdly enough, like a role play, which doesn't. A lot of the writing is very, very stiff and unnatural. Like, you can tell that this is like that certain parts are like really tacked on, which makes sense because they're like role playing. Like, that's, again, that's a role playing thing that just always happens with these types of stories, and it's fine. But trying to keep the role playing aspects of the dialogue without making it truly fit into prose and dialogue and like proper dialogue to have everything kind of connect together, it doesn't work. And this story really kind of stinks with it. Granted, I think based on this, the author kind of knew these issues and was actually trying to fix it, but I think just gave up after either like something happened to the author after chapter 3 and he kind of forgot about it, or he probably just abandoned it, or who knows, the author might have passed away. I don't know the author, so I can only guess. But I at least appreciate the fact the author was at least more than likely was attempting to fix the issues with the story. But I can, as it stands right now, as of this recording, I can only judge by what's written here rather than what might be. So yeah, let's go. What is the plot? It's really weird. Instead of being a coherent plot, it's just a bunch of miscellaneous little stories that are connected by the character of Rumia. So you're wondering, who is Rumia? Rumia is the very first boss of Touhou 6, embodiment of Scarlet Devil. She's basically a yokai that can manipulate darkness around her, and she's also pretty dumb. She acts like a kid, she has the mentality of a kid, she looks like a kid. She's more or less a kid. There is a few facts about her that are relevant, that are that I don't know if they'll be relevant. One thing is she's probably one of the few confirmed um, yokais to actually still eat people. Although she's very bad at it because her preferred way of hunting is to surround herself with an orb and just charge at people. So she's like she can't really see that often. But what is relevant to this story is this ribbon. So long ago, I don't know what year, I believe Zun was given an interview, the creator of Touhou. And someone asked, what's the deal with Rumia? Why, for someone who is so weak, why does she have such a very, very powerful ability like darkness? Or I think the question was, are we gonna see, is Rumia gonna come back? I can't remember what the question was. But Zun's answer revealed that Rumia is actually way stronger than she actually is. And it's because of the ribbon. Basically, the ribbon act is he basically implies that it's like a limiter for Rumia. Like, if she takes the ribbon off, she gets her full power, and she can just ruin a lot of people's day. This spawned a fanon version of Rumia called EX Rumia. EX in Touhou stands for the expert stage, which is usually home to like uber powerful bosses like Yukari Yakumo, Flandre Scarlet, Mamizu Futsuya, and Kogasa Tatara. Technically, kind of. Technically, she's one of the mid-stage bosses of that game. But anyway. The point is, people kind of latched onto the idea of Ruma being this uber powerful yokai that kind of has this mental block because the ribbon's basically stunting her everything. And a lot of people kind of interpret it as like she's evil and stuff like that. But in this story, Rumia is actually gets the EX form, but she's actually an unequivocally good guy. So how the story starts, how the whole thing starts, is Rumia gets in the way of because she's trying to find Marissa. Basically, Marissa kind of did what Marissa does best and steal a bunch of people's junk. Namely, she went to Voiler, the library of the Scarlet Devil Mansion, stole a very dangerous book from Patchouli, and they asked Rimu to try and find Marissa to get it back. Rumia wants to play with Rimu, but she kind of realizes that Rimu's on the hunt, and she's like, she's gonna beat me up. And so panicking, she offers Rimu's like, "I'll help you. Don't hurt me." And Rimu's like, actually thinks about it for a second. It's like, "All right, go find Marissa." So Rumia goes and they eventually find Marissa. She runs into, I can't remember, it was, no, she runs into Wriggle, her and Wriggle. They find Marissa. Turns out Marissa got out Marissa'd because Hatate, a Tengu, stole the book from Marissa. And so they kind of eventually, they find Hatate. She's kind of like desperate to get a newspaper out. They beat Hatate. They grab the book. They bring the book back to Remelia, and she's like, "Yay! Yeah, you can say the book. You can kind of be welcome in here now." And that's kind of where it goes, because over the course of the rest of the story, Rumia starts getting more powerful, and she actually starts getting physically older because the seal on her ribbon is actually slowly wearing out. Yes, this is a specific plot point from Osana Rimu. How'd you know? I don't. And this is kind of where the first flaw comes in. Nothing really makes a lot of sense. Yeah, okay, fine. The story starts with trying to find a book. Okay, that's fine. And then we get to the second arc, like, because it's like, for some reason, there's like different arcs and stuff. Second arc is they have to go to the underground because Alice's mom, Shinki, from the PC-98 games, which are non-canon, by the way. Those 1 to 5 are non-canon. The only parts of those games are actually in the canon are Alice, Rimu, Marissa, and Yuka. Those are the only part. Unless directly stated otherwise, those are the only parts of the PC-98 games that are actually canon. Well, just those 4 characters. But Shinki, in this story, the PC-98 games happened. Shinki finally gets enough energy to get a portal into Gensokyo because Alice, during the events of Touhou 5, Alice was actually the extra stage boss of that game. And during the fight in the story, she kind of gets in. They kind of just, since Shinki was kind of after them, they kind of had to escape, and they kind of inadvertently dragged Alice with them, and so Alice kind of lived with them in Gensokyo. But Alice wants to stay there, but Shinki is a mother figure, and this is where the story kind of falls off a cliff. We get a weird sequence where like Rumia is like a product of Shinki's world, and the whole Rumia EX thing. We found out there's like she had a husband who's like the core of Makai, and then she meets Sega. I'm very tired. I'm actually I'm gonna fall asleep after this story. And then we just get a bunch of random stuff, like Yukari dies like unexpectedly. Yuka is technically Mother Nature. The Cerno and Dayuse, they everyone in Team 9 wants to become stronger, and they get training, and it's just really off-putting. It also doesn't really make a lot of sense narrative-wise. Like, okay, fine. Rumia becoming stronger, that makes sense because fine. Dai and Cerno becoming sprites. Okay, that's kind of a stretch, but fine. Wriggle turning into being able to get any body part of an insect. That's what? Huh? And that kind of plays a part in why I don't like this story, because there's just all the stuff that doesn't make any sense. Again, more likely that's what the author was planning on doing to fix it. I think like there's a part where I can't remember which arc it was, but the Wakasushi sisters, the Moon Bitches, they want to take Kaguya back, but they don't want to. But like the whole point of their characters, they really don't want to go on Earth. I get this is Touhou, and the whole thing with Touhou is it's not supposed to make sense. You can kind of fuck with the characters however you want, but it still doesn't bear any semblance. Even worse, in the end of the story, Kanako and Sawako die, and it's like, why? Because they like we didn't even. I think we only saw like Sawako once before then, but it's like, oh what? I don't like. It's just a bunch of. It's hard to describe this plot because it's so scatterbrained and confusing that I'm having so much trouble actually describing it. Like there's parts, there's little mini arcs, there's the whole thing with Rika and the Yama, and Rika kind of getting tsundere for Rumia, and it's just like, why? And then Maribel shows up and Renko shows. I was like, it's so clustered, like so confusing and so clustered and so nothing about the plot makes any sense. Why? I just wanted to do that. I wanted to read nothing but good fan fictions this year. No. Okay. Nope. I'm moving on from the plot. No, I don't. There's only so much I can take with the plot without how everything doesn't, like half of this stuff doesn't make sense. Character wise. Okay. There's Rumia. Oh, no. 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 What is with her character? She starts out as normal Rumia. Okay, a dimwit. Fine. I can understand Rumia being a dumbass. Her, as the seal gets weaker, not only does she physically look older, she physically acts older. Alright, that's fine. I can understand that. But then she goes full Goku. Like she constantly gets stronger. Sometimes unneeded. She gets a massive amount of plot armor. Like a thing with she gets the Goku syndrome, which is, I believe, something I've heard where everyone basically loses to the main villain except for the main character. Like everyone else doesn't matter. No matter what you do, the only person who could defeat the main villain is this character. And no one's allowed to do anything about that. I guess that's a common story. That's like a common shonen trope thing. You know? Oh, it's super common. But it's one thing to have it make it come off as naturally, because like I said, this thing is a common shonen trope. It's I dare you to find a shonen anime where this doesn't occur. But all those ways at least have a way to make it natural. Like, say, the other person gets a power up, or they train. Like for instance, take Frieza from Resurrection F. Like everyone, like Frieza came back to life. They wished him back to life. He realizes, I have no chance against Goku. So I gotta do something I never did before in my life and train. He gains the golden form. He fights Vegeta. and Vegeta just completely curb stops the guy. Like, it's even been implied, like, that Vegeta actually could have killed Frieza, even with the golden form. Like, Frieza just had no chance against Vegeta and Goku pulled a Goku. I think in Resurrection F, Goku's more closer to his manga stuff. And don't quote me on that because I never seen Resurrection F, but I believe Goku in that movie is like closer to his manga self, which means it would totally make sense to kind of get to have Frieza let Frieza recover so that way Goku can have a shot at him. It would make sense. Like I said, don't quote me on that because I could be wrong. But some. Oh wait, no wait. Perfect Cell. I just realized it did happen. Like it did happen in Dragon Ball with Cell because Goku sacrificed himself so Gohan couldn't kill Cell because he was the only one who could do it. Anyway, going back to Rumia. Rumia herself, on a basic fundamental level, is fine. Like she starts out as a kid. As the seal weakens, she gets older, she gets wiser, she gets more powerful. We found out a lot about her. That's fine. The problem with Rumia in this story is her character just starts to get inconsistent. Like she gets super powerful. There's a need of like, oh, everyone deserves to live mentality because okay, that one kind of makes sense because the whole EX form inside of her still exists until like very late in the story where like it dies permanently. She constantly gets power-ups for some reason. Like that's kind of the thing with Touhou is like no one really is that super, they just are. Like for instance, Yuko, like her whole ability is like, oh, she can just think someone die and they just die. She's a walking death note. That's more her ability rather than skill. She's kind of smart, but she's also very lazy. And again, she's Yuko. You don't judge that. But going back to this, because I'm scatterbrained for this fanfiction, because this fanfiction can be just described as scatterbrained. She suffers from a lot of inconsistencies because you don't know how she's behaving outside of the growth of her character. Her character itself is very flat. It's very one-dimensional. Yes, she does get character development. She does get old. She does get physically older and mentally older. But she stays the same character at her core from beginning to end, which is only half-assing it. Like, yeah, she does get older and wiser, but it doesn't. That hardly matters when you don't. Her character doesn't change. She doesn't experience any change, any growth over time. That's adding more to her character is only part of a character development. You have to see a character grow and change in a way that kind of conflicts. Like the whole idea of Rumia wanting each villain she fights to live, but everyone kind of telling her like there's going to come a time where one of these villains are going to be so that catastrophically evil that you kind of have to put down, which does happen. Sega does die. Canonic, like she just gets shot in the heart, and she's like the penultimate villain. That's fine. The problem is Rumia doesn't. The way that's handled is so off-putting and out of place that it doesn't make sense. Like I get it. Thematically, part of Rumia's character, as it revealed, is the reason she doesn't want to kill anyone is because that's what the EX version wanted. She doesn't want to let the EX version of her kind of get any semblance of control over her body. That's fine. But the fact that the EX version matters so little because we don't know anything about the EX version. The fact that this fanfiction relies on people knowing who the EX version, that's not the problem with the story. this story relies heavily on knowing knowledge of who EX Rumia is. This is not a canon character. No, EX Rumia is a fanon character. So you have to know knowledge of a fanon version of a canon character, which is really, really bad. Like, it's one thing where, like, you take Kaguya Hiruzen. A common interpretation of her is that she's a shut-in. Okay, that's one thing, because it's still Kaguya. EX Rumia is pretty much a completely different character from Rumia to, like, so many degrees. Like, this isn't even a plot point in Osana Rimu. Like, if you ever watch that, Rumia, like, they make it a clear distinction. Rumia and EX Rumia are completely different people. Not only in, like, design, but character. Like, everything about them is so completely different. And that makes Rumia's character kind of haphazard. Because not only do you have to rely on knowledge of something that not everyone is, you have to be a fan of Rumia, and or at least know Osana Rimu to at least know who EX Rumia is, or you're just not gonna understand, like, any of what Rumia does as a character in the story. And that kind of extends to everyone. Everyone else is just flat characters, just one dimensional. Okay, we have Dai, who wants to become more powerful, but she barely shows up, and when she does show up, she's just randomly more powerful. Oh, she becomes a sprite, and she learns politics, but that hardly matters because she shows up so little. Mistia wants to become more powerful, but she gets like a little serum from Yukari that she gives to Rumia anyway. Yeah, it's so weird. The story is so weird. Okay. Go back to the review. Don't drag on anything. Where was I? I got distracted. I had to take a call. Oh yeah. Now I remember. The characters. Yeah, a lot of the characters are very, very flat, one dimensional. Rumia had good ideas. It's just because of the poor writing and how everything is so fragmented, it caused Rumia's character to not really be a character, just half of a character. Ugh. Okay, pacing. Everything's just way too fast. Like, okay, so let me just right here. The writing is really weak. Again, this is more of a consequence of the fact that the author. This is, I think, the pacing and the overuse of dialogue was, I think, the main issue the author wanted to get. Because if you go right here, like, if you read the first 2-3 chapters, it's actually not bad. Like, it's not written bad. It's very short, but I can see what the author was going for. But then once you get a little farther in, so let's, like, get first chapter of Arc 2, like, everything just starts becoming more and more fragmented as the story goes on, because either the author didn't catch, either the roleplay forum was starting to like, going up and down in terms of, like, how many people were joining or how many people were leaving, and everything was, like, kind of sort of fragmenting, more or less. See, like, you could see, like, it's just literally all dialogue. So that, and the fact that, more like, again, I don't know why the author abandoned this project, so I can't really say much more on the pacing, because you could tell the author was fixing the pacing issue but abandoned the story. So I can at least appreciate the fact that the author was trying to fix the issues, just forgot something happened and the author had to abandon it. So I'm going to give the pacing part of this the benefit of the doubt. Simply for the fact that there was an attempt, there was concentrated attempt to fix this specific issue. Grammar, no. I think that's another thing the author wanted to fix. There's a lot of bad grammar in the story. Mainly the fact that one, the author keeps misspelling Oku for some reason. I understand why you had it. The author spelled the character's name as Oku instead of Utusho, because Utusho is a really, really hard word to write. Like, give me a second. Can you really reliably spell that word? I don't think so. And not even just Oku. Oku's just the most obvious example. But this person inadvertently keeps not capitalizing certain characters' names and then recapitalizing them and uncapitalizing them and kind of going over and over again. It's really confusing and really distracting way. But I think the capitalization is the only bad thing. It's been like 2 weeks since I read this story, so bear with me. But yeah, I don't think the grammar was one. Again, I'm going to give the grammar the benefit of the doubt. It looked like the author was trying to fix this, but just wasn't able to. But yeah, that's that. Would I recommend this story? I think at this point I said all I reasonably could be said. I do admit that there is some good ideas, like the idea of Maribel Hearn not being Yukari, as is like the implied canon, because with Yukari you never know, and the fact that never really outright state that Maribel becomes Yukari. It's implied but never confirmed. But in this story, Maribel is Yukari's youngest daughter. I think that was a good idea. The fact that Yuka Kazami was Mother Nature, I think that's a good idea. The idea of Rumia EX being a good guy, like a force for good, that's not a bad idea. The whole idea of sprites and is actually not a bad idea. There's a lot of good ideas. They're just buried under just a mountain of crap that is an attempt to try and recreate the forum in fan fiction form without trying to compensate for the massive change in formats. It's really hard to recommend this story. I do, like I said, a lot of good ideas, just one monstrously bad execution. What would I do to change it? Honestly, I don't really have anything to say regarding changing it, because again, the author was attempting to fix it. So I think if the author just stayed the course like this, it would have been fine. Like it's not even so much changing the plot or it's just need to better define the characters and needs more natural writing to better incorporate all the words that are said in the role play. I think that's really just it. And again, the author was on the right track, like with this chapter. With this chapter, it was like the author was showing the fact that they were planning on fixing it. Yeah, that's really all I had to say about this. Oh yeah, what would be my favorite part? I don't really have one. I guess you could say the very funny moment. Like, okay, so I guess there's one moment that I kind of like. So it's when Misty is running her izakaya stand, and Fujiwara no Moku shows up, who's basically immortal. and she just starts talking with and she shows up with Kine, and they just start talking, and then Flandre's Scarlet shows up. One's like, "You're strong. I want to fight you." And Moku's like, Kine and Misty's like, "Please lead her away." Because like, all right, we'll fight, and they fight, and Mokuki's like bragging about like, "You can't kill me." Like right before, like at the end of the fight, Flandre's like, "Okay, let's see if I can kill you." Q and uses her power of destruction on Moku. Cue like a hilarious moment where Moku disintegrates and Kine Misty just starts freaking out like and Kine's like, should have been back by now. And Kine's like, Misty is like, wait, you're not freaking out about this? Like, she'll be fine. And then cue Moku coming back to life. It's like, wait, dies again. Comes back to life, says a word, dies again. And goes like that repeatedly. And apparently that happens over the course of like the next couple of chapters in the background, where she's like fighting Kaguya, and then she just spontaneously dies, comes back to life, like, and Moku, instead of like freaking out, or everyone like, it's like, what the fuck? Everyone's just like treating it as like a normal occurrence, like, did you just spontaneously? Yes! Don't die, Kaguya! No! And then it gets a callback at the end of the story where Kaguya finds out about what happened, and Moku dies. Like, how many times has she died? Like, around 12,000 times? And you didn't tell me? Flandre, here, show her. I was like, no, I don't find out that way. Not that way. It's actually kind of funny. Like, you just picture Moku being supercharged with Flandre's energy, and she's like casually talking to Kine. It's like, hey, oh wait, what? Dead dies after like politely telling Kine to wait a moment. It's actually pretty hilarious. It's a pretty hilarious mental image. I think outside of that, I don't really have anything more to say. So this has been Dark Symphony 777 with the Tale of Rumia, and cut.